Hello YouTube, Totalhenry, and I have a different video for you today. I have sort of a art advice video, or I guess a comic book slash storytelling sort of instructional video. So what I'm showing right here is a 3 page, or I guess 4 pages really, 4 page comic book story that I did when I was at RISD Pre-College, which is a summer program. I made a video showing off my sketchbooks from that time period, which you can find. I will probably have a link in the description so you can watch that. And so basically, what I want to talk about in this video is paneling and some advice on how to properly construct comic book panels. And I'm going to be using this story as an example because there is a very crucial mistake that I didn't realize when I initially drew this. I'm going to show the mistake and talk about how I fixed it. So very quickly, I'm just going to run over the entire comic just so you get a sense of what it's about. The assignment was to create sort of a spin-off on David and Goliath. So I decided let's use samurais and like sort of old Japan, feudal Japan, with a samurai being David and sort of a farm boy, or sorry, samurai being Goliath and a farm boy being David. So this is the first page. David looks like he's in trouble, looks like he's about to be killed. Then as we move on to the next page, we can see him reaching for a slingshot, and then Goliath brings the sword down to like deliver the finishing blow. Then David stops the sword with his slingshot. There's a surprised look on Goliath's face, and then we see the huge punch, and David has knocked Goliath down on the ground. Okay, so that is the basic story. And now, as you can probably notice, some panels, like this one and this one here, aren't inked. They are just left in pencil. And the reason for that is there is a huge mistake here, and I'm just going to focus on these two panels right now for the moment. I'm going to push these pages aside. So the main point I want you guys to, I guess, remember, if you learn anything from this video, is when you are creating a comic book page, not only do you have to consider the layout of the panels on the page itself, on like the individual page, but you also have to consider the way they interact with the pages following it and the pages preceding it. And in this case, I didn't do that. So if we go to this scene right here, you see David is on the left, Goliath is on the right. That's made very clear by this panel. And we have a foot here. And now this is already very ambiguous, like whose foot is it? And you can see that the foot is pushing off of the ground and heading towards the right. So if you look back up here, you can see if any character were to head towards the right in this sort of position, it would be David. And if you go back to, I guess, the first page here, you can see that he is barefoot and he does have ripped shorts. So you can sort of see that I'm trying to say that this is David's foot. So we have David's foot here, and I'm trying to show that he's heading towards the right. And I want to have this use this panel as a transition shot to the punch that I know is coming up on the next page. But here's the problem. The punch is coming from the right, going towards the left. And when you see that the foot is heading towards the right and the punch is coming from the other way, it does not look like this foot and this hand are the same person. I hope you guys are understanding what I'm trying to say. I hope you can. I hope this is clear. So this is very weird, and if you were reading this, you might not make the connection that David is punching Goliath. You might think, a third person just came up and sucker punched Goliath almost from where we're standing right now, from where we're looking at it. So what I did was I had to design a better transition panel, because that's essentially what this is, so I could have a good action scene over here. So the transition panel that I came up with was this one right here. And as you can see, this is, first off, it's not very well drawn, but this is a much better panel than this one right here, because it shows the whole scenario. It shows the whole setting. Like, we have the establishing shot over here, we have a close up, and then we pull back, we sort of pull out a little bit so you can see the back of Goliath's head, and you can see David, and you can see that he is winding up for a punch right there. And because I have all the speed lines going towards the hand, it puts all the emphasis on the hand. Now, even though this panel fixes the problem of sort of the ambiguity of whose foot that is and shows the whole scenario, this hand over here still looks like it's coming from the side, like Goliath is getting punched from the side of the face, even though here he's would be getting punched square in the face. So I had to change the punch panel to something like this. So this is what I came up with. So it looks like he's getting punched square in the face as opposed to on the side. So now if we pull back and look at both pages together, you can see that again David blocks Goliath's sword. I have a close-up, I wanted this to be like a surprise look on Goliath's face. Then we have sort of this transition shot where we see David winding up to the punch, and then we have the actual punch, and it's much clearer now than it was before, where we had the foot and looked like the third person's hand coming in. So again, I'm showing you this because the takeaway is just sort of planning and just being aware of the overall scenario in your comics and in your comic strips, just like where all the characters are. The other thing I'm going to mention quickly before I end this video is these two panels I tweaked a little bit, not because of an issue as crucial as like a wrong direction as with the foot in the hand, but just for more aesthetic reasons. My teacher thought it would be better to have David sort of looking down at Goliath almost like this, because here it doesn't really feel like that, and also having a panel like this where we're sort of zoomed out a little bit more gives a sort of a better feeling of that Goliath was knocked down on the ground. And then these two panels also work well with this one, because this panel is sort of like another establishing shot where we see David looking at Goliath on the ground, and we can see his helmet and the sword, and everything's like on the ground, everything has like fallen off of Goliath. And then we can zoom right into David, who I can have his eye leading the viewer down to this panel where we can sort of see David lying on the ground. And you can play around with things like how it should be, whether it should be like this sort of from David's perspective, or you can flip it around. I think I had it like this. It's been a year or two since I made this, so I'm not remembering it exactly. But so that's basically it for this video. I just wanted to go over some paneling advice, I guess I could call this, just using mistakes that I had made. Again, the important thing is to remember where your characters are and what direction they're going in. And just because you have a really good solid page doesn't mean that it works in the context of the whole thing. You have to consider all the pages together, and even though this page stops here, I didn't consider what was going on here. And even though I love this panel, I think this came out really nicely, it just doesn't work with the way I had drawn the previous page. So you always have to make sure that everything works well together. And I guess don't be afraid, even after you've drawn a whole page, to go back and tweak it, because things can always be made better. And again, that's something that I'm still working on, because I know it's hard. You spend hours drawing something and then you're like, well, I don't want to go back. But so I really hope some of you learned something. If any of you learned anything, that would make me incredibly happy. And let me know if you like these art instructional videos, because I would love to keep making them. And I guess thanks for watching.